Okay, so what I made is this big network where if you hit Shift V, you will open up the interface where I can cycle through all the pictures manually or automatically by toggling the play button. And here you will see that by default the pictures will have the eyes in different places. So if I quickly toggle this off and go to the first picture and we check the output, we see that the eyes are in the correct place because I already did so. But if I go to the next picture and the next one, okay, this one doesn't have the eyes configured in the locked place. So let's go back to the gallery. If I left click the left eye and right click the right eye and then go back to output, you will see the eyes are nicely centered horizontally and vertically on 1/3 and 2/3. So let's do the same for the remaining pictures. Back to gallery, next picture, left eye, right eye. So now that we processed all the pictures, we can toggle the play button again. So here in the unprocessed original pictures, you will see the eyes jumping around. But if we go to output, you will see the effect where the eyes are locked in place horizontally and vertically on 1/3 and 2/3. Okay, so a quick overview of the interface. We have a few tabs on the top. The play button we already know. The frequency just does what it says. It cycles through them slow or quickly. By default, I most of the time leave it at 0.5. The next 3 you can use to manually cycle through them or hit next or previous. But for now, let's leave it on play. The second tab, edge stuff, is basically controlling the edge detection that I do in the network. So feel free to play with those parameters. They will give you infinite amount of different variations on the processing that is happening. So feel free to play with color or whatever. Also, you can do a comp over input, which passes the original picture in the background. So feel free to tweak with these. Next, let's switch to the output section. As here you see that the index is at 1 that I used while configuring the pictures or processing the pictures. But as you can see, I provided 7 in total, going from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And those outputs you will find in the network over here. So these are 7 outputs that I already provided for you, but feel free to add additional ones. And then for the last tab we haven't mentioned yet, you will see feedback refresh rates for output 0 and output 3. So in the output section, let's go to output 0. So if we go to tweak the frequency, you'll see that now the middle section is refreshed or cleared very often or very frequent. But if we decrease the frequency, you will see the middle section is only refreshed or cleared now and then, meaning that the overdraw of all these edge lines is way bigger, giving this comic style effect. And then for the third output or index 3, we can also play around with the refresh rate, which is basically controlling in the network these 2 feedback refresh rates based on the LFO of this one. So the only thing that these parameters do is that they control the frequency of these 2, which in turn will update the reset of this feedback loop, meaning you do a clear of what is being overdrawn. So why I created this project? As a photographer, I spend a lot of time going through my portrait photographs, and one day while scrolling through them, I noticed an interesting effect where the eyes in different pictures seem to stay locked in place, which caught my eye. And I found this visually captivating and thought, what if I could recreate this effect across all of my pictures, even if the eyes were not naturally aligned. So then that curiosity led me to experiment a bit, and I started by browsing for more random pictures on Pinterest, for example, which I then brought into TouchDesigner. And from there, I developed a processing network, which quickly became a tool where I could manually select the left and right eyes in each picture, and TouchDesigner would then automatically process those pictures to align the eyes to the same central position. And this was my experimental phase, taking a simple observation from my own work and seeing if I could turn it into something tangible. And the result was a device or system that could transform any portrait sequence into a cohesive, visually engaging and series of aligned images. And that's how the idea came to life. Okay, so how it's made. If we go into this first component, you will see that I placed all my pictures inside of it. One tip: if you add your own pictures, make sure to hit the lock button. This makes sure that on reopening the project file, the pictures will still be there. If you don't hit the lock button, then your pictures will be lost. So make sure to hit this lock button and save your project file. This makes sure that all the pictures are saved with your project file. So we go back out. Next part is the replication logic. The replicator will find, or the opfind will find all the pictures you placed within this comp, and the replicator will make a copy, a specific copy of this template component where all the processing happens, and it will do it for the amount of pictures that it has found. So each of these components is a copy, but is a specific copy of this template, where each specific copy is for a specific picture. Next, we will go into this template where the processing actually happens. So it selects a picture that it needs to select, and it will do some processing. It will read out the panel value, meaning the left and the right click coordinates, and based on those coordinates it will do two main calculations. One, calculate corrective rotation based on the arctangent, and the other one is for some scaling. So if we go out of this template and go in this specific copy, you will see that it's selected a specific copy. And in this picture, the eyes are not aligned, but on the end result, it used these calculations in order to do some picture transforms. So you do a rotate, translate, and a scaling. And based on those operations, each picture gets corrected so that the left and the right eye are centered horizontally and vertically on 1/3 and 2/3. So if we go back out again, we can see that we already tackled those parts. Next up is a select top. It just, as you can see, it cycles through all of those templates or specific template components. It selects one and it feeds it to the remaining network where the creative visual processing is taking place. This is mainly done through a few crop tops. This crop top, make sure to crop out the center part of the eyes. And next you have some edge detection tops that make the comic style, drew style. So that's how everything is working in here. And then I provided these 7 outputs, but feel free to add your own processing stuff down below. Just connect it to the switch top, and then once it reaches the switch top will get selected in the UI part. So this is the UI creation part, where I just select all the unprocessed ones, so the original pictures. And on the right, if I activate those viewers, you will see the original unprocessed, unrotated and translated pictures, and on the right you will see the rotated and corrected pictures, so that the eyes remain in place. And the rest is basically some UI creation stuff. So if you have any questions, feel free to let me know and I'll try to explain in a bit more detail, but for now this should do. Okay, so in the meantime I also uploaded the project file and the tox file, so the component, onto Gumroad. So if you do a quick search for ab_out, you will find this new component next to my previous components. For these 3 first ones, I also created a tutorial, which is also on YouTube, so check it out if you want. But this is the new one, so you will get a few screenshots of the interface with the different outputs, and below some details on what you might expect, the project file and the tox file being the component, with some additional details.